Hello and welcome to another episode of Inside the Track. It's myself and Pete back again. This time talking all things West Ham United. Obviously, it's been a big selling window for them so far around the Declan Rice saga. That's now coming to an end. He is going to join Arsenal, and by the time you watch this on the Sunday, you've probably seen him in an Arsenal shirt already. However, me and Pete are going to talk about what West Ham could maybe do with that £105 million that's coming into their bank and who they could bring into the club in the summer. Pete, massive deal with Declan Rice, isn't it? All done and dusted now, and West Ham will use that to kick on, won't they, for the rest of the window?
Yeah, it's a huge deal for West Ham to finally get this done. We all knew that Declan Rice was likely to leave the club this summer as well, so West Ham have driven a hard bargain and got the money they feel that Declan Rice is worth. So yeah, £105 million. Obviously, not all paid up front, so it's going to be structured. So it doesn't really mean that West Ham have got £105 million to spend straight away this summer, but I think they will get a large chunk of that money reinvested into the squad. It will be given to David Moyes to try and find a replacement for Declan Rice and to improve the squad elsewhere as well. So yeah, busy summer ahead for West Ham, and they need to get this business right after a disappointing season in the Premier League last season, but obviously they had the joy of winning the Europa Conference League as well. So yeah, big season ahead in the transfer window for West Ham and their new director of football, Tim Steidten.
Yeah, I wonder if West Ham got relegated last year, would they have been the first team in history to get relegated and win a European trophy in the same year? I wonder. I don't know if that is the case, but it was a bit weird fighting a relegation battle and going for a European trophy on the same in the same season, wasn't it, Pete? A bit of a weird one. However, that was the case. They obviously kicked on and won that. But yes, you're right. They do have to replace Declan Rice. Dennis Zakaria, Pete, is a name that is coming up a lot, obviously. Juventus, fans will know of him. Fans in England obviously know of him too. Is that a possibility? Is that someone he could move for? We know that he's available, certainly, and wouldn't be costing as much, obviously, as the 105 that Declan Rice has.
Yeah, it's a real feasible target for West Ham. I think Dennis Zakaria obviously had that spell on loan at Chelsea last year. Didn't work out as probably as best as he hoped when he made that move to Stamford Bridge as well. But I think he showed glimpses of what he can offer in the Premier League when he did play for Chelsea. So I think for West Ham, he could be a good signing. He doesn't figure in Juventus's plans going forward, so they're open to a permanent move or probably more likely another loan move with an obligation to buy. And West Ham are seriously looking into this. Talks are being held between the two clubs to see if they can strike a deal. I'm sure Zakaria would be interested in a move back to the Premier League, and he would be hoping for more first-team football, and I think maybe to put some roots down as well. So if he went to West Ham, the opportunity would be there for him maybe to win a permanent move to the London Stadium and build on it from there. But yeah, a good player, Swiss international. He's played at the highest level, Champions League. So I think he would be a good addition to that West Ham squad as well, and would help fill the void left by Declan Rice's departure to Arsenal.
Yeah, and obviously the fact the Chelsea loan didn't work out at all, really. I mean, at all. It's interesting that West Ham believe he's got obviously the ability and capability to still do something, Pete, because if you want to take a trial and you look at the time at Chelsea, that wasn't right. Maybe all that was going on at Chelsea, the surrounding everything, it's not the simplest club to play at. Maybe that played a part, but it's a bit of an odd one in that regard, isn't it, Pete?
Yeah, it's an odd one in that regard. He didn't really sort of impress at Chelsea, but I think probably, as you said, you have to take a lot into context with what was going on at Chelsea. He played under 3 different managers at Stamford Bridge last season: Thomas Tuchel, Graham Potter, and then Frank Lampard. So yeah, it was a difficult one for Zakaria, as it was for a number of players at Stamford Bridge as well. But I do think on occasions he did show what he could offer. He did quite well in some of the Champions League games when Chelsea qualified out of the group as well. He's top pedigree. He's played for Switzerland at the highest level, also Juventus as well. So I think if he can get a regular run of games, you'll probably see the best of Dennis Zakaria. He just couldn't get into a rhythm at Chelsea last year, being in and out of the team as well. So that affected him, I think, for his performances as well. But yeah, I think for West Ham, they're ready to give him that second chance in the Premier League, and I'm sure he'll be desperate to take it with both hands this time as well. So for me, if he can get this deal done on a loan, I think it could be a good piece of business by West Ham.
We know that West Ham liked Alvarez, didn't they? The Mexico defensive midfielder. He's getting closer to a move to Borussia Dortmund as we speak, Pete. So that looks like it's probably going to be a move to Germany for him rather than a move to the Premier League as well. So that would firm up that Zakaria move once more for West Ham, or make him even more important, I should say. Let's talk about James Ward-Prowse. We'll just stay in the centre of the park, shall we? Let's talk about James Ward-Prowse, another player we know, we expect, Southampton expect, he expects to leave this season. Lots of Premier League interest in him, but West Ham have had quite a lot of interest in him. Certainly in a decent position for James Ward-Prowse. Would potentially watch Spurs here. I know they've got Maddison, but they're another team that would like more central midfielders. But West Ham could move for James Ward-Prowse. At this point in time, he's on holiday and not in a rush. But certainly towards the end of the window, this could happen.
Yeah, I think it's pretty inevitable that James Ward-Prowse will leave Southampton during this transfer window. A player of his calibre doesn't really want to be playing in the Championship, even though he's been so loyal to Southampton over the years as well. I think he will look to return to the Premier League this summer. As you said, lots of interest in him as well, the England international. It's not just West Ham. We've got Fulham, admirers of him, Aston Villa also admirers, and we know Tottenham do like the player as well, even though they have signed James Maddison, so maybe their need is not urgent right now for James Ward-Prowse. But yeah, for West Ham, he looks perfect for a David Moyes team. Yeah. Brilliant player, great commitment, can play in so many positions in midfield as well, and we all know about his set piece delivery. I think it'd be ideal for West Ham, who score so many goals from set pieces as well. Obviously, he can score free kicks, as well as he's going for that record of David Beckham's of so many free kick goals in the Premier League as well. So yeah, I think it'd be a no-brainer for West Ham. I think if they went and did that, obviously Southampton will be looking big money for their captain as well. And now people know that West Ham have got money in their pocket from that Declan Rice deal. Maybe it would have put up the price tag on some of their targets as well. So it's a difficult one for West Ham to juggle. But I think for me, if West Ham are looking to improve their midfield, I think James Ward-Prowse would be a great shout.
His quality, James Ward-Prowse, I think he sometimes gets tagged as just as free kicks, Pete. And I think he's more than just that. You know, he showed there's a few goals he scores last season where he's dancing around a defender in the box for Southampton and putting it in the back of the net. He creates everything. He was their key man for key passes. He's far more than just free kicks. Of course, though, his set pieces are absolutely exquisite. It's a bit like the Juninho Pernambucano. I don't know if you remember him at Lyon. Pete used to score free kicks from about 70 yards out every single week, didn't he? It was absolutely ridiculous. Talk to me about Alex Scott, though, Pete, at Bristol City. Obviously, incredibly talented young player. We know West Ham have had early conversations with Bristol City about Alex Scott. You're a man that knows far more about the Championship and co than I do. You're very well versed on it. Tell me about Alex Scott and why does he get so much interest? Obviously, we know he's a great player, for example, but is it likely he leaves? We're hearing £25 million price tag from Bristol City. Would that be correct as well?
Yeah. Top talent, Alex Scott, one of the best young players outside the Premier League. I think it's pretty fair to say. Yeah. Winning lots of plaudits at Bristol City and also for England as well. He's a real star in the making, I think, and it seems inevitable that he will make that move to the Premier League sooner rather than later. Wolves tried to get him in the January transfer window, but had a bid rejected by Bristol City, who are sticking to their guns. They do value the player between 20 to 25 million, and they're refusing to budge from that valuation right now. So that's putting off some of his suitors right now, as they don't want to spend such a high fee for the midfielder as well. But yeah, brilliant player. I think he's only going to get better and better if he does end up moving to the Premier League. As you said, West Ham have made inquiries about him, but I think they don't really want to pay that £25 million fee for Alex Scott right now as well. So that one's maybe on the back burner right now for West Ham, as they're looking at other targets maybe for that central midfield role. But yeah, he's a player who's I think will be on the move this summer to the Premier League, and Bristol City are doing their utmost to try and get as much as they can for him. So yeah, he's one to keep an eye on during the summer transfer window. I think there'll be a lot of clubs, not just West Ham, ready to make a move for him.
There's a defender that's been spoken about a lot. I've heard about him myself. I know Liverpool liked him and a number of clubs have, but he's called Per Schuurs and he's at Torino, Pete. Certainly a player that West Ham liked and have looked at, but could be at risk now if Liverpool reignite that interest due to the Van de Ven kind of movement towards Spurs at this point as well. Talk to me about that position, because that looks like another position, that centre-back area where West Ham think maybe we need to bring in a little bit more strengthening in here.
Yeah, I think probably central midfield and centre-back are the two main priorities that David Moyes wants to strengthen this summer. And as you mentioned, Per Schuurs from Torino has been linked with a possible move to the London Stadium. He's a top player. He came through at Ajax before making that move to Serie A, and he's done really well for Torino as well. But I think the player himself would be interested in a move to the Premier League if it did come about. Lots of reports suggesting Liverpool are leading the race for sure right now, having dropped their interest in Van de Ven from Wolfsburg. We know Liverpool are in the market for a new central defender this summer to try and bolster their defensive options as well. So that might make it difficult for West Ham in their pursuit of Perth shares. And I'm sure David Moyes right now is looking at several defensive options as he wants to add more quality to his defence. And Perth shares, I think, probably talking around £30 million mark as well. So it could be an expensive deal to try and do as well. And with the competition for his signature, it might just place him out of West Ham's reach.
Yeah, cheaper option, not by much, but certainly perhaps a cheaper option might be Jonathan Tah at Leverkusen. He's been there for quite a long time. He will be known by a lot of fans. He's been a player that's played in every level, obviously, now for Leverkusen, with the Champions League, the Europa League, into the Bundesliga, obviously. Contracts with them until 2025, Pete, but 27 years old. So he's not a 21-year-old up-and-coming centre-back that they might have to splash the cash on. Could be another interesting one. Certainly another player that they could look at. But let's move on to up front, Pete, because Scamacca's not had the best of times at West Ham, I think it's fair to say, Pete, since he's joined. Antonio's put out pretty weird comments at times about his future, about leaving the club. So that could be an area that they have to strengthen in, because they know that two players are there who perhaps could leave if the opportunity arises. I don't expect West Ham to sell Scamacca, by the way. I think a lot of it is paper talk. But if the right offer arrives for any player, that they're gone, aren't they?
Yeah, I think David Moyes will readily accept if the right offer is made for any of his players in the squad. He will accept it, and it will give him the opportunity to reinvest it, to sign new players as well. Yeah, lots of speculation and rumours about Scamacca's long-term future at West Ham. He was a big money signing last year. A lot was expected of him. It didn't work out for him at all due to form and fitness, and we are getting obviously constant reports from Italy that he could be on the move back to Serie A with the likes of Roma strongly linked with him. A loan move from, I just don't see a loan move for Scamacca this summer. I don't think West Ham would entertain loaning them out. If they are to let Scamacca go, I think it would have to be for a straight cash deal, and they'd be getting back as much as they possibly can for what they paid for him, because they don't want to be making a big loss on the Italian international as well. So yeah, that's one that might go really late on into the window, and to see what West Ham do with other potential striking targets. Victor Gyökeres was somebody who was on their list. David Moyes does like the Coventry striker, but it does seem that they are going to miss out on him with the player very close to joining Sporting Lisbon in Portugal as well. So yeah, I'm sure David Moyes will be looking at other potential targets as well. Habib Diallo from Strasbourg is another one that West Ham scouts have been keeping an eye on. He had a great season in Ligue 1, just gone, scored 20 plus goals as well, and was instrumental in keeping Strasbourg up. So he's another name that West Ham do like as well. So if they do lose the likes of Scamacca or Mikel Antonio, I'm sure Habib Diallo could be somebody they would look at now that the Gyökeres deal seems out of reach.
Yeah, it's a big few weeks ahead for West Ham. We've kind of covered every position there, apart from the goalkeeper, but they've obviously got Fabianski there still as well. We'll wait and see what happens in that area as the future goes on. But we'll leave it there for West Ham now, Pete, because it's still only the 7th of July at the time of recording this. You'll be watching it on the 9th. But it's still very early in the window. Still a long way to go. Still just under 2 months to go in this transfer window. So a lot of time to happen. Yeah, thanks again, Pete, for joining me, mate. And we'll see you all in the next one. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. And cheerio.